Hello, beloved. Good morning, good day, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you are, in which time and place. My name is Ditta of Godland, or Roman name Ditta Retuma, and I'm making this video from Stockholm in Sweden, from the court hearings of World Indigenous Human Order Courts of Godland, where we are doing reset of love order for our wonderful earth living systems. And that will be done through change of financial and monetary system, away from the metallic and digital and back to the wooden tally sticks and coins. Yeah, it's not that complicated. Just use the coins and tally sticks. Coins with runes, wild indigenous runes that you can cast to get in touch with the gods of love, peace, and welfare. And fill the checks each month, telling that you are alive, and give it to your council. You can download them from loveorder.info and make it into your languages. And tell your council that you are alive and you are not acquiescing to their death cult of the cabal financial quantum system that they are imposing upon you, and their currencies that you have never signed to use. You have never approved them. They are imposed upon you by the cabal, cannibal. Yeah, so good luck with that. But today I will be putting my loving attention to the brilliant work of one economic professor, academician of Russian Science Academy, Valentin Katasonov, who has made this brilliant article on the 6 conclusions he makes due to this COVID operation that the cabal is doing to put all living systems into their digital control and execution. So now I will totally become just a reader of this article that I have, with the help of the wonderful Google automatic translator, turned into English from Russian. And it is a fabulous automatical translation, so we have to love this anyway, but it has to be under human control and no other. And cheers for that with the water. So here we go. I will read now Professor Katasonov's article on 6 problems regarding coronavirus. And to introduce you to this magnificent scientist, I will tell you that he is a professor, Doctor of Sciences of Economics, associate member of the Russian Academy of Economic Science and Business. And among other articles, he is known to, on May the 5th, 2018, have written an article how China became the world's #1 international financial donor. Deposits, real estate, businesses, and infrastructure facilities are all collateral for Chinese loans now. Anyway, he is Russian scientist, economist, doctor of economic sciences, professor, specialist in environmental economics, international capital flows, project finance, investment management, monetary system, international finance, economic sociology, economic history, and the history of economic studies. And by the way, to introduce myself, I have master degrees in economics from Stockholm's University. I have a master's in business administration since 2004 by Roman calendar and 12,004 by indigenous calendar. So, and here is the article. Are you ready? You can find this article on svpressa.ru. Society article number 280201. The link will be below this video on Indigenous Courts WVO WVIOCG, which stands for World Indigenous Order Courts of Gotland. Indigenous Courts on YouTube. So the article goes like this. Valentin Katasonov writes the following. I'm not a physician, and I'm not going to dive into the intricacies. Oh, sorry, I'll have to start it over. I'm not a physician, and I'm not going to dive into the intricacies of medical science and discussions about the origin of the COVID-19 virus, the extent and ways of its spread, methods of protection and methods of treatment. I would just like to draw your attention to the obvious absurdities of the actions of state authorities in connection with the so-called pandemic of the coronavirus, which are striking. Such absurdities catch the eye of any sane people, and they try to talk and write about these oddities. I am not discovering any America. I am only making an attempt to summarize all these observations. The observations refer to both Russia and other countries of the world. The conclusion that follows from these observations is terrible. The authorities do not save the people, but kill them. Consciously or unconsciously, this is another question. That is beyond the scope of my article. I will name only 6 main reasons, brackets arguments, for such a conclusion. The first reason: all suspected of being infected with a virus, brackets start, usually on the basis of tests that give a positive result, brackets end, are collected in hospitals and other special premises. An unacceptably high concentration of people is created in a limited area. Even those who are not infected, brackets start, and a positive test result does not mean anything, brackets close, are guaranteed to be infected with the virus in such institutions. Those whose disease was asymptomatic, brackets mild, received a severe form of the disease, often fatal. As the doctors say, the entire hospital is turning into a continuous red zone. There are no secluded safe corners at the facilities. In the red zones, there are not only patients, but also doctors who also die from the infections. The second reason: All the attention of medical institutions, according to the authorities' commands, was focused on the treatment of those infected with COVID-19. Treatment for the rest was postponed until better times or was carried out to a minimum. Coronavirus. Oh no, that was urgent surgical operations, vital procedures and examinations were postponed or cancelled. An ambulance on phone calls (brackets start) if the calls did not include suspicions of coronavirus (brackets close) could arrive the next day or even a few days later (brackets start). By this time the patient could have already died (brackets close). From the beginning of the year to the end of October, according to medical statistics, 53.5 million people died in the world. Of those infected with coronavirus, 1.182 million died. It turns out 2.2%, but there are still many diseases from which many more people die. For example, according to the same source, 7.84 million died of coronary heart disease in 10 months of this year. This is 6.6 times more than from COVID-19. 5.588 million died from strokes, 4.7 times more. From pulmonary diseases, brackets start, acute infections of the lower respiratory tract and chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, brackets close, 5.696 million, that is 4.8 times higher. From cancer of the lungs, trachea and bronchi, 1.518 million died, which is 1.3 times more. People with chronic and life-threatening illnesses are left to their own fate. There are dozens of times more of them than those in serious conditions due to coronavirus infection. I'm not even talking about the fact that mortality statistics from COVID-19, in the opinion of many honest and professionally competent doctors, are falsified. Only 1 in 10 diagnosed with COVID-19 can actually be considered dead from the coronavirus. In other cases, these are deaths with coronavirus. But the reasons are different. Pre-existing diseases, brackets start, coronary artery disease, cancer, pulmonary diseases, etc., brackets close. The number of deaths from COVID-19 is about the same as from seasonal flu. Have you ever heard that even during a flu pandemic, people stop falling from cancer, coronary heart disease, pneumonia, and other serious diseases? Question mark. And now, under the pretext of fighting COVID-19, seriously ill people have been forgotten. In other words, they have been erased from life. The third reason. Under the pretext of fighting coronavirus, the authorities have established a regime that slowly but surely kills people. Under the pretext of self-isolation, people were deprived of the right to the sun, fresh air, movement. Or this right is so limited and regulated that leaving a person from an apartment resembles a walk in a prison. Special mention should be made of the masks that the authorities are trying to put on all citizens. This is a very large and serious topic on which thousands of doctors around the world have already expressed their opinion. The fourth reason. Under the pretext of fighting the coronavirus, the authorities actually blocked the functioning of the economy. This is what the English language media call lockdown. I will not dive into this topic especially, but because I have already written a lot about blocking both foreign and Russian economies. Estimates of losses to the global economy in 2020 from the crisis triggered by the factor COVID-19 range from $5 to $10 trillion. This is about 5 to 10% of the world's GDP last year. Of course, for some corporations, for example, pharmaceuticals, COVID-19 turned into additional billions of dollars in profits. But in general, humanity under the influence of the factor COVID-19 has become significantly poorer. Poverty has skyrocketed. In July of this year, the United Nations predicted that in 2020, from a pandemic, the number of poor people in the world will increase by 71 million compared to the past. According to the results of the first half of the year in Russia, the number of people with incomes below the subsistence level amounted to 20 million people. This is 1.8 million more than last year. As the saying goes, it's not over yet. By the end of the year, the army of beggars in Russia may grow by 3 million compared to the previous one. It is obvious that an increase in poverty will inevitably lead to an increase in mortality. This is an axiom that doesn't require any special proof. The fifth basis. The fifth reason. Many methods of prevention and treatment of COVID-19 used and recommended by the ministries of health of different countries, according to medical professionals, pose a threat to people's lives. At the same time, one very striking feature of the current policy of the medical authorities is obvious. They do not want to listen to and hear any opinion of those experts that do not coincide with the general line of World Health Organization, WHO. Why not, for example, discuss the doubts voiced by doctors about the effectiveness and feasibility of such a method of treating infected people as with artificial ventilators? Some doctors even believe that mechanical ventilation does not cure, but cripple. I'm not even talking about the fact that many drugs used to treat infected people only aggravate their condition. It would seem that in conditions of a serious threat to society, medical and other authorities should maximally mobilize the knowledge and experience of medical professionals in order to determine the most effective methods to combat the threat of COVID-19. Instead of creating some kind of permanent meetings and advisory councils of medical professionals who could make the necessary recommendations for the authorities, we see something completely different. In Russia and otherwise, officials, majors, governors, Roskomnadzor, the Ministry of Health, etc., command the people. They do without the advice and recommendations of the Russian Academy of Sciences, the Academy of Medical Sciences, medical universities, thousands of professional doctors with experience in solving similar problems back even in Soviet times. Where do the teams of these officials come from? From WHO. Where does WHO get its commands from? From those who finance this organization. Those from like Bill Gates with his eponymous charity foundation and the pharmaceutical giants behind it. And this high echelon of the administrative vertical has a strategic goal of destroying most of the world's population, bringing its population to the optimal level of 1 billion people. As you yourself understand, this is no longer medicine. It is cannibalistic geopolitics. The sixth reason. It is a continuation of the base of the fifth. The highest authorities of world power need to move as quickly as possible to the final phase of the operation code named COVID-19, The final phase should be general (global) vaccination of the population. This topic has been discussed in the world and Russian media for so long that I do not want to immerse the reader in it now. I have personally followed this for 2 decades now, and I have no doubt that the planned COVID-19 vaccination behind the scenes is intended to poison billions of so-called superfluous people. There are other grounds for the assertion that under the flag of fighting COVID-19, people in the world (and in Russia as well) are not being saved, but led to the slaughter. In many countries of the world, mortality statistics have already been published for 2 and in some places even 3 quarters of 2020. And here's what is surprising. Almost everywhere there was an increase in mortality compared to the same period last year. Well, this is the increase that is due to the coronavirus, others might say, but the fact is that the overall increase in mortality is several times higher than the number of deaths from COVID-19 this year. This can be considered the contribution of the authorities to the reduction of the world's population under the guise of fighting a pandemic. I'll repeat this sentence. This can be considered the contribution of the authorities to the reduction of the world's population under the guise of fighting a pandemic. As an illustration, I will give data on mortality in Russia for June this year only. Compared to June last year, it has grown by 25,560 people. Deaths from COVID-19 were reported this June as the main, not a co-cause, brackets close, 7,037. It can be considered that the difference between the two figures equals to 18,523 people. And this death is caused by the wrong actions of the authorities. And if we multiply this figure by 12, the amount of months, we get 223.3 thousand people who can become victims of the murderous policy of the Russian authorities during the year. The example is still conditional. Accurate calculations on an annual basis will only be possible next year. It would be correct to consider the dynamics of mortality in the period from the beginning of the second quarter, from April the 1st of 2020, brackets when authorities began active actions to save population, brackets close, to the beginning of the second quarter of 2021. Many politicians, doctors, lawyers, and sociologists in different countries of the world say that the death rate from the fight against the coronavirus is many times higher than the death rate from the coronavirus itself. As an example, I can cite numerous appearances in the media by Robert F. Kennedy Jr., a well-known American lawyer and nephew of American President John F. Kennedy. One of the videos with his speech is called "Mortality from the Fight Against the Virus is Higher than that from the virus itself." Today, as you know, the population in Russia begins to fall rapidly, both due to the extremely low birth rate and growing mortality. The authorities will not bother with the intricacies of statistical analysis, and the population decline will be attributed to such a natural disaster as COVID-19, like we have nothing to do with it. Force majeure, however, I warned about this back in April in my article, The Extinction of Russia Will Also Be Blamed on COVID-19. I hope that my short article, which does not claim to discover America, can be used as a cheat sheet for those readers who conduct explanatory work among the fellow citizens. And such explanatory work is very necessary. The disappeared human faces behind the masks are a sign and a symbol of the fact that society has found itself in a state of general darkness. But I hope that the darkening will pass and I will see human faces again. For some reason, the words of American President Abraham Lincoln come to mind. You can fool part of the people all the time. You can fool the whole people for a while, but you can't fool the whole people all the time. That's how academician, Professor Valentin Katasonov ends his article on the 6 reasons to the conclusion that he has taken that people of the world are not being killed by the virus, but they are being killed by their governments. And World Health Organization as the leader of this massacre. So please share this video and share the knowledge about that we are holding court cases and trials of these war criminals. And even if Nuremberg trials will not be restored, there will be indigenous citizen and human rights trials going on in our beautiful world. And we will convict the criminals. And we will liberate them from duties of power. But it can't be done without your help. So, all men and women of humanity, find your tasks that you can do now to restore love order on our Mother Earth. And this means that babies have to be born, as many as possible, and we have to protect the fertile humans as much as we can, and we have to shut down the sterilization, depopulation technologies and chemicals, and the whole matrix of depopulation tools has to be removed from our reality. It's a criminal war attack. It's a covert warfare. And there is no resistance to it because it is covered in lies of a virus attacking humanity. So wake up. It's not a virus that is attacking humanity. We have to get back our media where we can tell truth at last. And these lies have to stop. So we are doing truth commissions. We are doing financial, monetary reform back to tally stick of our predecessors. The system that worked wonderfully in the world before Rothschilds imposed their monopoly of metallic coins and now are imposing monopoly of quantum financial system. So we have to pull the brakes on this financial machinery, handbrakes, and we pull them with tally sticks. So you can carve your own tally sticks. They were called carvstocks in Sweden. You just split your carvstock make a sign of the agreement sides, you and somebody else. Put a number in your ledger book of this agreement and write in the amount of world indigenous runes here that you are creating, because we are the creators of the money, each human. No banks, they have fooled us. We are the creditors, we are the creators, we are the children of the gods. And we have to now win and do this love order reset. And may the gods be with us, gods of love, peace, and welfare. And all the dark gods will have to reside. And for that we need love order areas where we can put all the convicted criminals to have good life instead of prisons and satanic death cult suffering facilities. No, no, no. That's where love order starts to become possible, where we do not convict for suffering, where we give all people good solutions for their life. And we see to it that those in power are the loving, the competent, and the loyal to all ethnical groups, to all country citizens, and to all humans and others who not living systems. Everybody is loved. And that love has been given to us divinely by the gods, whom we are alike, which means that that is a man and a woman. And they are trying to create this sexless experimental creature, like in Matrix movie, being raised in plastic containers. They are planning to stop human binary sex reproduction in 10 years. That's what 2030 is about. When everybody, all men and women, will be already sterile from microwave gadgets and vaccines, and they will start producing these gene-modified replicas of humans who will be sexless slaves. This is too much for a common man and woman even to take in. But that is what we have discovered by following the money. And they have it all. They have all the money. So if we don't start our tally stick and tell them no more MasterCards and Visa cards that are not controlled by our indigenous rulers, we have little chance to win them. They are recruiting whoever they need in their horrid projects. Military, commercial, the education, medicine, everything has been destroyed, mainly by these. Who are they? The cabal? The cannibal cabal? Most likely. Adrenochrome dependency victims. So let's forgive them, but not forget what they did. Let's love them so they realize that this human love order is much better than the one that they are plotting to establish. That's the only way how we can win, actually, because they have already transferred all resources into that quantum financial system computer. And they have recruited everybody on their Visa and MasterCards. Try to get off them, do whatever you can, become your indigenous society registrar, download the forms of checks and runes from loveorder.info, and may the gods be with us. Thanks so much for still being the love order of humanity on this wonderful earth.